After making it back into the playoffs after 2-year hiatus, we, well, just like I said, made it back to the playoffs. And so coming into year number 8, expectations are going to be high, or at least higher than what they have been over the last couple years this particular season. Again, just taking a quick look at what happened last year. The Carolina Panthers making it to their 3rd ever Super Bowl, finally get it done, this time with Bryce Young as their quarterback. Joe Burrow was the MVP. Mac Wilson was the Coach of the Year, obviously with the Panthers. Bijan Robinson and Aiden Hutchinson were the respected Offensive and Defensive Rookie of the Year. Casey Belton, the wide receiver for the Bears, and then Brandon Odin, the right end for the Bengals, ended up getting it, which ultimately potentially could have gone to one of our guys who comes in as a star in the making. And if you watched last episode, you know Bolden is going to be absolutely huge. We got this guy in round number 2 of the draft last year, and he was just an absolute freak of nature. 9.5 sacks. Didn't play the full season just because we had Tyree Wilson also up in there, but now the fact that we have these 2 star defensive ends, it's going to be really, really, really good to say the least. And yeah, man, I'm looking forward to this season. I know the last few seasons there was definitely a little bit less optimism, but going into the year, I know particularly last year there was potential thought of, if it didn't go well, we might move on from the Commanders, but nonetheless, with a playoff run, we are moving forward with this team. And again, just kind of taking a look at it, there's going to be some interesting stuff to say the least. But let's take a look here at some of the players that we are ultimately going to need to re-sign. And yeah, it's going to be just a interesting offseason to say the least. I don't think we're going to be potentially losing anyone big. Darius LeBlanc, we're going to have to try to keep him on this team, one of our better guards. Jahan Dotson, one of the longtime players of this team, unfortunately, I think he's just going to end up going. We actually have a fair amount of money, so for us right now, this isn't too much of a stretch to really be worried about it. Mason Dugan, our kicker, didn't really have a great year at the end of last year. AJ Howe, a guy that we thought was going to potentially be something for us in the future, but I'm going to take a look at some of these guys. Definitely going to try to re-sign LeBlanc back to a deal, and then maybe DeJuan Jones. I know we have a guy that could potentially fit into that role. He does want to re-sign, so that makes it easier for us. Let's just see if we can get him on this. He's happy to stay, and let's just see if we can get LeBlanc back. 2-year. For a start, I'm kind of more willing to lean towards this 3-year deal. Hopefully we can get him. He's excited to stay. Again, we're going to be walking into the offseason with $27 million. Just looking at everyone else here, I'm not too worried about trying to re-sign anyone else. So let's get into the free agency period. There's really only 2 players that I looked at this. Again, we had some money, but ultimately I'm looking at the amount of needs that we have. They don't really outweigh kind of going out there and spending. But taking a look here, I am targeting Roquan Smith as our number 2 linebacker. Again, he just has that experience and he's still a good player. But going with Brandon Aubrey, the kicker out of Notre Dame, one of the best kind of like bright up and coming kickers in real life. 36 years old in the game, kind of gave him a 2-year option at an 81 overall, and just kind of going with that and seeing what we can do, just hopefully seeing if we can get either of them. And both ended up signing with us. Those are going to be the only 2 free agent moves that I end up making this particular offseason. So let's get into the draft. With the first overall pick in the draft, it looks like the Chicago Bears have it in year 2031. Who are they going to ultimately go after? And they select tight end Morgan Scott. I think this is the second time that the Bears in this series have had the first overall pick and selected a tight end. But Morgan Scott, again, he looked like one of those really, really top end players, and he ends up going first overall to the Bears. That's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on in the future. But let's see who goes second overall to the Giants. Anthony Cohen, wide receiver receiver out of Texas Tech. So we will sim to our next pick, and then we will take a look at the first round, maybe one of our second round picks, because we do have those 3 second round picks from some of the trades that we made last season. But we'll take a look at our player. So with our first pick, we select cornerback Dalton Harrison, and as you can see right there, this dude looks like an absolute gem of a player for us. He is that hidden dev trait, 6'3", 208 pounds. With our aging secondary getting close, they're both on their last years of their deal with Emerson and Manuel Forbes. We're definitely going to have to look to get younger, and this is one of those guys that could potentially be a superstar for us moving forward. I am so excited about this pick. And with the last pick that I'm ultimately going to show here in this draft, I ended up selecting outside linebacker Dante Sears. Again, only the normal, but still looks pretty decent nonetheless. You know, he has some good stats. This is one of those guys where I know outside linebacker isn't a top need for us, but we can definitely transition him to an inside linebacker as well. I'm not too worried. Just getting some excellent depth is something that I like, but this is going to be the last pick that I show, and the next time that you see me, we will have all of our picks and we'll be taking a look at the entire draft. Now that we are officially done the draft, taking a look here at this particular draft, and Morgan Scott was a 78 overall, and then Anthony Cohen was a 77, but it looks like the top of the draft is Tyreek Jenkins, the 80 overall safety. But just taking a look here, the next was Dalton Harrison, a 79 overall corner for us. He's the second best player in the draft, and then looks like this Steve Godfrey was also a pretty good player, but Morgan Scott up there. But yeah, super psyched to get one of the best players in the draft with our first pick. That is always what you love to see. So just taking a quick look here at how we did. So again, Dalton Harrison, Dante Sears, and I also ended up drafting this Wayne Sanborn. He looked really, really good, and he also has a hidden dev trait as well. So having some pretty good young-looking players. This Rashawn Coleman, he also has a hidden dev trait, so maybe could be something for us down the line as an offensive lineman. Really big player, actually, 6'5", 310 pounds. That's almost tackle territory. So we might potentially, you know, just mess around and see what's kind of there. And then ultimately, kind of throughout the rest of the draft, it was just either filling positions or just like taking random shots. Like, is this Zach Ballard? I essentially just looked at him. I said, he's either going to be really good or he's going to be really bad. And turns out he's really bad at a 63 overall, especially in the 4th round. But Ty Bowen, this was a 5th rounder. This guy was supposed to be rated as an undrafted free agent, but I looked at him and in my scouting, it said he was a 1st to 2nd round talent, so I felt that this point was just a no-brainer to kind of go after. So yeah, this is kind of realistically what the draft was, but our top picks were really the main ones, and then everything else was kind of depth, with the exception of Bone, who looks like he could potentially be a nice little player for us coming out of the slot. You know, 5'11", 200 pounds, so he's definitely a skinny guy. But again, kind of with our receivers, we're looking for young players just like our corners, but Dalton Harrison is without a doubt the man of the show. So the first order of business now that we are in the preseason is to see what Dalton Harrison is, and unfortunately he is only a star, which is so unfortunate, but hey, still a 79 overall at 21 years of age. And just taking a look here at our corner situation, again, you know, Manuel Forbes and, you know, Martin Emerson, both very, very good players. I think I might actually trade Emmanuel Forbes here in the preseason, just because I want both of these guys to really get as much play time as they possibly can. And then we have, you know, a handful of pretty decent looking backups, but let's get into the regular season portion. So, kind of like I said a little bit earlier, we were planning to ship away Emmanuel Forbes, and we ended up getting a 2nd and a 3rd round pick in the upcoming draft, sending him to the Miami Dolphins. I was trying to get their 1st round pick for Emmanuel Forbes, but ultimately this just felt like a pretty good deal for us nonetheless. And yeah, let's continue on with our season. As per usual, at the start of the year, always taking a look at our particular team. Our offensive line is looking pretty decent here at the moment in Zerma, LeBlanc, Morrow, Townsend, and Jones. Jones is the only one who isn't a star or above, but still all above 80s. Studmere, I'm gonna just stick with that going to the series. McCain and Hart are both into that normal trait, but you know what? Hunt, pretty good, but yeah, both of these guys were kind of monsters in the sim, so we're just going to kind of run with it. Bowen, he is our wide receiver 4, the rookie that we drafted. Klein, again, he's at 99 overall, so we're expecting big things, but Jefferson, really, really good. Taking a look here at our defense, Leslie Moody and Bolden, our 2 edge rushers who were just monsters for us. Whitington, the superstar X Factor middle linebacker, and then we have a really, really good looking secondary. Harrison, he is our cornerback number 2 after trading away Emmanuel Forbes. And then also taking a look at it is Robertson. He is going to be our 3rd, but he's also going to be mainly our nickel guy, but this is kind of our situation that we're going to see just for the specialists. And practice squad, I don't ever sign any of these guys unless they're just coming off of my roster anyways. But yeah, special teams looks like this. But as per usual, we are going to be simming every single game, and whenever we get a win, we will take a look at the stats, and we will also be stopping after week number 4 or after 4 games, just to get an early sense of how the team is doing stats-wise, but hopefully we see you more times than we don't over these next 4 weeks. A good start to the season for us as we ended up getting the win 21-10, but as you kind of saw here, Lance Klein just not having a good day. Again, he's Jay Cutler. I swear to God, he is exactly just Jay Cutler. Maybe just a little bit better than Jay Cutler, but he is the exact mold. Bryce Jefferson had himself a good day. Elijah Hart looking pretty good. Studmere. Ken, I just immediately was like, his name. But Luke Hunt not getting a single reception. Our best receiver, maybe not the way to go about that. Looking at the sacks, DeJuan Jones was the only guy giving up a sack. Emerson Jr. kind of saw that his buddy went away, but he led the team, or he was tied for the most there, but we had 4 sacks in the game. Gordon Goodrich with 1, Stephen Norwood, McClendon, and Roquan Smith. So none of our edge rushers or defensive line, except for Norwood, ended up getting any sacks on the day, but we still managed to get after the quarterback 4 times for the win against the 49ers. Back-to-back weeks with a victory, this time beating the Miami Dolphins, who we ended up just trading Emmanuel Forbes to, so hopefully he didn't have himself a good game against us, but looks like we had ourselves a pretty good one with 31-17. Taking a look here at the stats, Lance Klein having himself a good day, but Chris Fitzpatrick having himself a less good day in that terms, but Gabriel Bayless ended up getting into the game, so he got sacked on, I guess, the play that he was in, but Lance Klein also getting sacked twice, so a little bit of offensive line struggles. Bryce Jefferson, another good day. Luke Hunt finally starting to get the ball. Stoudmere also having a good day, but Andrew Hyder, one of our backup tight ends, having himself a good day as well. And then kind of our number 2 and 3 wide receivers having pretty average days. Taking a look here at the blocking in Zerma and LeBlanc, so the left side not really having a great day. Leslie Moody tied for the lead, but the big thing here is the 2.5 sacks, and then Roquan Smith also getting that half sack. So it's good to see Leslie get there, but Bolden not really doing anything, but interceptions, Roquan Smith and Barry McClendon. So it's good to see that we're getting sacks and interceptions again. So it's around that time that I show you off this particular draft and just kind of seeing some of the stuff here and some of the players. Again, I'm not really going to particularly look through or really dive too deep into what we're seeing. If you see anything that really piques your interest, please pause the video and watch. But Emmanuel Newhouse is who they are projecting us to select in the first round, which is a left guard. Again, not really our biggest position of need because our offensive line, if anything, it would be a right tackle in this. I didn't think I saw a right tackle. I'm not really going to spend too much. Right tackle right there at the top of the draft. So, if only this guy could end up falling. But yeah, a very good looking start to the season, this time beating the Minnesota Vikings 20-17, so a nice close game there. And taking a look here at the stats, Lance Klein, again, just not the high numbers, but we were getting the interceptions. He was sacked twice, and we got to Lipton twice in this one. Lipton threw more yards, but just not really getting there. But yeah, Jefferson, again, having another good day. Stoudemire playing pretty well, Elijah Hart, but again, just kind of looking at this as Luke Hunt just not really getting too much off of those 4 catches. McCain getting the touchdown, and so did Hart. So it's good to see our backup receivers getting there, but the sacks in Zerma and James Morrow. And then on the defense, Glenn Bolden getting his first sack of the year, and then also helping him out was Norwood. And then looking at the sacks, Dalton Harrison getting his first interception of his career, and then Steve Robertson, who was our first round pick in last year's draft, getting it done there. So like to see the interceptions and sack comes. Hopefully Bolden can start to get a few more sacks this year alongside with Moody, because we haven't seen Moody other than the second game of the season get any, but he did have 2.5, so early parts of the year. A perfect start to the year, and again continuing our dominance over the Dallas Cowboys over the last couple of years, this time having another close game, 29-23, still finding a way to get it done. Lance Klein, 3 passing touchdowns. This is what we want to see from him. Justin Pearson had the 2 interceptions, and he was only sacked one time in this game, and Lance Klein getting sacked the 3 times. Jefferson, again, he's just so steady, man. But Luke Hunt having a good day, but Jefferson getting a receiving touchdown, and McCain and Hart, same amount of receiving yards and catches for the 1 touchdown. But Dyson, a backup running back. So 2 of our running backs actually getting into the end zone in this one, but DeJuan Jones giving up the 2 sacks. Luke Winslow, our safety, getting it done, leading the team. But Glenn Bolden, I know we kind of said we want to see a little bit more from him in this one, but it's good to see him get the sack. But Emerson and Whitington getting the interceptions here. But let's take a look here at the full season stats. Lance Klein is actually having a much better start to the season than I would have initially expected, with the 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's actually second in the NFL in passing touchdowns right now with 10. So got to give him a little bit more of a break here throughout the season. And only the 2 interceptions, which I think came in game number 1, has been sacked 7 times. So we're definitely going to have to try to help him a little bit more out there. Jefferson, he's doing what he's doing, just an awesome player. I love this draft pick. Luke Hunt, and he's having a pretty standard part of the year. Would like to see a little bit more in the yards department, but Stoudemire, doing really, really well in his second year. Elijah Hart and McCain both adding some receiving yards or some touchdowns there, but taking a look at our sacks, DeJuan Jones, maybe it might be time to put in Flathery if he keeps giving up some of these sacks here at this point in the year. But Luke Winslow is actually in a 3-way tie with Bolden and Harrison for the leaders in tackles. But then when it comes to sacks, Leslie Moody with 2.5, Bolden with 2, and Stephen Norwood with 2. So it's good to see there Roquan Smith with a sack and a half. But the interceptions, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we are getting after the ball so far. And Brandon Aubrey is perfect so far on the year. So we're going to continue on until our 8th game of the season. And once we get to trade deadline, potentially making some trades. Now back in the win column after losing to the Green Bay Packers, which makes me upset beyond all belief, but this time beating our division rival, the Philadelphia Eagles, by a massive margin, 42-10 in this game. Lance Klein having a nice little performance here, 272 yards, the 2 TDs. Actually, before I go, getting 2 sacks on Jalen Hurts, but Alex Pollitt appeared to be getting into the game for at least 1 play. Yeah, Jalen Hurts, we were able to get after him in that one. Jefferson chef's kiss. And then Metcalf, one of our rookie running backs, was able to also get into the end zone in this particular game. So our running game was strong. And then Elijah Hart with the 2 receiving touchdowns. And then Luke Hunt, again, the 56 yards. So maybe not as good of a game for him, but steady all around here. Taking a look at the blocking, no sacks given up. So that's very nice to see. Whittington leading the team, but taking a look here at the sacks, Leslie Moody and Gordon Goodrich both getting the sacks, and Martin Emerson Jr. getting the interception. We were able to get back Gordon Goodrich. Thank goodness. We had been in some weeks of negotiation. We ended up signing him to a 6-year deal, so hopefully he just continues to grow and develop. And, he's kind of turned into that Isaiah Simmons role for us, where he's outside linebacker, but he also can generate sacks. So this is a guy that we definitely want on this team long term. So a decision had to be made at this point in the year. We are sending what has been ultimately one of the best moves that we have had in this series, getting Luke Hunt in the first season with this team. We ultimately have to trade him away because we can't get a contract done with him. And, he's in the final year of his deal, from being in the 90s to now being an 89. So he is starting to look like he's potentially regressing. I don't want to give him the 4-year 50 plus, or I think it's closer to $60 million that he wants over that time. And I found this guy, Lamar Shelton, from the Cardinals, looked pretty good. So let's just quickly take a look at him here in the trade. But yeah, needless to say, this is not a move that I want to make. It's just, unfortunately, we couldn't retain Hunt. He just didn't really want to be there. And funny enough, we actually now have an 88 overall playmaker. He's going to be looks like he could be pretty decent for us. But taking a look at his career, he's had 3,000 yard seasons, so he's going to be just nothing but impressive. His best year definitely came in 2029, where he got that 1,210 touchdowns. So right now on the year, 436 yards and the 6 TDs so far for Arizona. So this guy looks like he could be pretty half decent for us. And then just taking a look here at the actual contract that he's on, 3 years remaining at relatively very, very good deal here. It's just one of those things. Hunt, the offers that we were giving him at 30 years old, he just really wasn't looking to accept. So this is one of those moves where I ultimately had to make that executive decision and say, hey, listen, we need to ultimately try to find a younger wide receiver who's going to be on this team for the next couple of years. And yet, needless to say, we ended up finding that in Lamar Shelton, so we're just going to bring him up to our top. And, having him as a playmaker is also extremely helpful. Just taking a look here at our slot stuff. So this is kind of giving you a little bit of an idea here. Yeah, Elijah Hart's still playing in that slot position. I know Bowden probably might be a little bit better, and we actually might test him out later in the year, just kind of seeing how things go. But yeah, so let's continue on. Getting our 6th win of the season, and we are officially at the halfway point of our year. So we're going to take a look at this game and then take a look at our stats. But we ultimately beat the Philadelphia Eagles for the second time this year, 24-17. Lance Klein had himself again, a nice looking day, no sacks given up, but we managed to get after Jalen Hurts 5 times in this one. No interceptions on the game, but you know what? We'll take the sacks in that one. Jefferson, again, just no worries. Lamar Shelton. Oh my goodness. In his first game with the Commanders, he tries to put out a statement saying, hey, I'm better than Luke Hunt, and he put up a better game than Luke Hunt ever did this season. So we are immediately looking at this going, hey, we are more than happy here. No sacks given up by us today. Love to see it. Emerson Jr. leading the team. But taking a look here at the sacks, Bolden with 2, Moody with 1, Goodrich with 2, and then a sack and a half from Norwood and Roquan Smith. So a pretty good looking game there. So let's take a look here at the actual season stats for us so far. And Yeah, I gotta say, I'm pretty happy with what I'm seeing so far. Again, Lance Klein, he's fourth in the league for passing touchdowns, so I can't be upset with that, especially when he has only the 2 interceptions. And from where we were at the sacks in the first half, where we gave up 7 in the first 4, we only gave up 2 more over the next 4 games, so definitely getting a lot better protection up front. And Bryce Jefferson, just an absolute beast, nothing but love there. Lamar Shelton, again, some of those numbers are inflated because they weren't all with us, but he does have 130 with us on the year. But yeah, very good looking player. Elijah Hart, again, we're still trying to get some more depth at that wide receiver position, but Elijah Hart getting those 5 receiving touchdowns is very good to see, and we're actually getting a fair amount of receiving from our running backs as well. Taking a look here, Mike Nzerma and DeJuan Jones are tackles. Again, we kind of expected that to be the main thing. Townsend having a very good year, knock on wood. Whitington, again, leading the team in tackles with 54. Taking a look at sacks, Leslie Moody and Bolden. Moody at 5.5, Bolden at 5, Norwood at 4.5. So pretty good from our D line. And Goodrich, again, talking about him kind of playing in that Isaiah Simmons role for us in the future, getting those 3 sacks there. Roquan Smith doing some good things. And then taking a look at our interceptions, Martin Emerson Jr. again with those 2 INTs on the year, and still, again, pretty good so far. And then looking at Brandon Aubrey, perfect all year long. So no complaints whatsoever with what we're seeing from him. So that is ultimately going to do it here in this episode, guys. Thank you all very much for joining me. We will be back for the part 2 of season number 8 in either the next day or the next upcoming days. But till then, thank you all very much for hanging out with us. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this particular video. A new series is going to be coming to the channel inside Madden, so stay tuned over the next couple of days for that one. All I'm going to say is I'm really excited about it, but till then, guys, peace.